So this took like 2 weeks of me trying to call and leave a message. No one ever answers. And then finally I go there and I said, I need to clarify, what am I supposed to be taking? And she said, it says go to 30. I said, right, that's what you guys have told me a couple, like 2 times, but could you go talk to the doctor and go ask her, can I talk to the doctor? No, you have to have an appointment to talk to the doctor.
Rosanna, how did you find Carnivore?
Okay, so maybe kicking and screaming, but it all came down to hands. Last summer, we had moved. Well, we were in the process of moving. We'd sold our house and didn't have anywhere else to live. So everything was in storage. We just sort of up and drove somewhere, and then we stopped for the night. We thought we were going to go on to another state. And the next morning, we just didn't get up. We're just like, that's it. We're done. We're here. Let's just go find a house. So we did. We found a house and put it under contract pretty quickly, but that meant that we had to wait for it to close. And I kept telling my sister my hands hurt so bad, like the thumb joint, both hands. And I found you adapt to that for a while. I would sit on them because it was, pressure and warmth. Holding a cup, I wanted a really narrow cup because it hurt to stretch my hands out further. And it was stupid stuff, like everyday stuff you can't do. Fingernails, you can't clip them. Ziploc bags, I just would toss it over to my husband and say, just do it. I can't. Putting on your socks hurt. Putting on your pants hurt. And she said, well, it could be oxalates. And I'm like, well, what are those? And she said, oh, you got to read this book. And I'm going, I don't even have a home. I'll deal with this. I don't have any more emotional bandwidth to start with this. So once we got into the house and we had a family wedding, we had to finish. I got Sally's book, and I was annoyed. I was never a vegan, never a vegetarian, but we ate what I thought was balanced diet, a protein, a vegetable, and a side like potatoes or something. And everything that I liked was oxalate. And we had been nibbling on peanuts, which were high in oxalate, with just a handful of peanut M&Ms sprinkled in the bowl. So you got a little bit of flavor of salt. Well, a lot of flavor of salt and a little bit of the chocolate and sugar. So in October, I started looking at lower carb and lower oxalate because you were not supposed to just get all the oxalates out at first. So I was watching a lot of the low carb YouTube stuff, and Carnivore hadn't even come up yet. I was just looking at like low carb down under. And one of the things that as you start learning about it, it starts making sense, but you're still a little annoyed because like you like your food, potatoes, curry over rice and things like that. But I had been dealing with health problems probably since my late 20s, early 30s. And I knew that doctors can't help. They'd never helped before. I'd gone for so many different things, and we could go into some of those. Got a little bit of notes. It's like silly things. Let's see. I had pain, like that would travel from time to time. Like I would be sitting on a bleacher and the bone underneath your butt would hurt. And then some days later it would go away, and then you'd have lower back pain, and tried a chiropractor and that didn't work. Let's see. So probably a big one back in probably when I was in my late 30s, I had an eye twitch that lasted for 7 months. It just didn't ever go away. And I would have to just hold it like this because it felt like a flickering light. And when you're trying to read something or concentrate, it was horrible. And I went to primary docs. I went to have acupuncture, and they did it all over way around my eye. And then even put it here and here and then in your feet. And that didn't work. So the doctor did like a little bit of electrolytes and said, you look fine, and just send you on your way. And then it was finally a friend of mine. I mentioned it to her, and she had a brother who was an eye doctor. And he said, well, it sounds like she's low in magnesium. So I started looking into magnesium. I supplemented with CalMag Zinc. It went away. And about that same time, I was having GI upset and was going to a first primary doc and then gastroenterologist. And then he just said, well, you have irritable bowel and you have GERD, reflux. And he started me on Prevacid, which I took for 30 days. And I said, that doesn't work. And I threw it away and didn't do that again. Let's see. While we're still dealing with the eye twitch before I got it to go away, I forgot to tell you this part. I went to a neurologist and he said, oh, it's like some kind of a palsy. It's probably going to transfer from one side of your face to the other. And he started doing Botox. So I had that for 2 or 3 rounds. It starts wearing off at about 2 or 3 months and the twitch would come back. Nowhere did anybody ask me about my diet. In trying to research it myself and with various family members, we kind of came up to the conclusion it's gluten. So I took gluten out of my diet. Things got much better. And, life kind of goes on and you have problems and they come and go. And so let's see. Yeah. So then we had a house that had property. So we had chickens. And I thought, oh, that's so sweet. And I loved eggs. And after about 3 or 4 years, I started developing a nauseated feeling when I ate eggs. So I tried taking myself off them 3 or 4 different times. And every time I introduced them back, I was seriously, seriously ill. Like within 20 minutes of eating, you were going to be spending some of the time in the bathroom, and you better have a bowl also. So it was the last time I tried myself on them. And I even did like scratch tests on my arms. Like I'd scratch it up and then put a little bit of chicken white, egg, and yolk. And then we got ducks and I tried it on that. And I always got a red hive on it. And so eggs were out. The last time I did it, I actually felt like it was having trouble swallowing. It was around like an apricot or something is in the back of my throat. So I'm not one of the people that are going to be on BB and E. So maybe BB and something else good somewhere. And we had a big garden and I liked growing things. And a couple of years later, we even tried quail eggs. We got like 5 quail and even just like a fingernail bite size, like that much, and I'm reacting. So eggs are out. So let's see. Okay, so then I also had other signs of inflammation. I had a frozen shoulder once. I couldn't put dishes up. I had tendonitis on the top of my foot, had to wear a boot, and we were going to San Diego. So here I had a boot with sand trying to get across the beach. That was lovely. Let's see. So then when I started the lower carbs, so it was October, and we just, like Thanksgiving, I had a tiny bit of potatoes, a tiny bit of stuffing, and 1 bite of my husband's pie. And I was still not doing well. Like I didn't cheat at all over Christmas. We had prime rib for Christmas. We had crab legs for New Year's. So I didn't feel like I was deprived at all. I just wasn't getting any better. And then on January 5th is when I started Carnivore this year. So that's about 4 months now. It was because I made what would have been a stroganoff where usually we'd serve it over noodles. And that next day I didn't feel very well. And I said, I think low carb isn't enough. And I don't know if it was the mushrooms or the onions, because in stroganoff, you kind of have meat, sour cream, mushrooms, or if it's like garlic powder, I don't know. So all of it was out, and things started to get better. So within a couple weeks, and so when I say I wasn't well, that was a GI not well. So it wasn't the hands. The hands started to get better at about 2 or 3 weeks in, and this part of inflammation went way down. Like, I didn't know my hand could get small. Like, you get used to things. Another thing is right here, it's these weird little bumps. And when I looked into it, it's something that could cause a contracture, like you can't even open your hand there. Those little nodules are starting to get smaller. So it doesn't look really that odd, but it was kind of odd. So like, I can do all of these things with my hands, which is just crazy. I sometimes still feel a twinge in there. So I would say maybe 80-85% better. And when they tend to hurt, it's after you've done repetitive, like pruning some of the trees outside or something like that. Let's see. So the one thing I want to say for other people that are new or something out there is don't expect it's going to be magic right off the bat. Be patient, because some of these things have been with you for a long time. And so I still have a knee click when I go up or downstairs. It doesn't hurt, but it's noisy. So my feet used to hurt a lot if you had to stand on. I was a nurse, and so I worked in the neonatal intensive care unit. So you were always standing when you were taking care of your patients. And we worked 12-hour shifts, sometimes 16-hour shifts. And my feet would hurt so bad that I would wedge them in the couch because I wanted the compression of the cushions to just push against them. And it would be the kind of thing that if we took walks, it was great. But if you had to stop, like if the dog needed to potty or something, then starting again hurt that much more. Like, I would just say, here, you deal with the dog, I'll keep walking. When I would stand at the counter to chop, and if you're eating vegetables, you do a lot of chopping, and the feet would just start hurting. And so then I'd just stand on one foot and just sort of lean so that I could rotate which foot had to bear the brunt of having to stand. And my back would hurt a lot too. So just in the small part of my back. And I don't have that anymore. And we walk a lot now. We'll walk 2 miles easy, just talking the whole time. My legs don't hurt. My feet don't hurt. The feet cracking, I've heard other people talk about the feet cracking. They're still cracked, but they're healing in, they're smoothing out. So that's not something I was even looking forward to. So the irritable bowel, I still have that. Like, it would get, it knows if you didn't get a good night's sleep. Like, anything that's a little bit of a stressful event. So some of the times when we've flown places, you have to get up at like 3 a.m. to get to the airport and all of that. And that's not going to be a good day. So it's still with me, but I think it's easing up. I ended up taking cheese and dairy out about a week ago. And I also took out coffee, which was easy. Like, it was weird. I thought I used to laugh at the people that would go to those baristas, the drive up, and they're in their car, because I thought, I can't wait like an hour and a half until I'm dressed and ready and head out the door. And it would irritate me to be in a car line. Like, I want my coffee I wanted my husband to get up 30 minutes before me because I wanted my coffee the second I got up. But I think a lot of it was holding a warm cup felt really good right here. And then, so I was drinking probably 4 cups of coffee a day, and I just cut it back like by 50% for 3 days, and then another 50% until I just stopped. So the first few days I would just warm up a cup of water and just hold it like that. And then I realized I don't really need to do that because the hand doesn't hurt. It's just a comfort. In my brain, it was a comfort thing, like I associated it with. So now we're just like cold water in the morning, and that's it. Let's see.
So
Sorry.
what's in your mug now?
Water. Just water.
Cold water.
Yeah, it's room temperature. We have one of these Berkey filters. So yeah. Like I rarely put ice in it. So heartburn, gone. We used to carry Tums everywhere we went. There was a few in a baggie in my purse. There was some by my bedside. There was some by the table that we sat at the couch next to. Those are totally gone. So what is this? 3 years ago, I was driving and all of a sudden blackness happened in my right eye. And the whole field of vision then looked like there was pepper sprinkled all over the place. So I had to drive home like this, just so my left eye could do the work. And I had a retinal tear in my right eye. So what I was seeing was blood, but it looked kind of cool. It looked like a whole bunch of a wave of birds like this. And so I had eye surgery the very next morning, and that's been fine, but it left me with floaters and one little bit that was like a little curtain of brown. So if it would get in my field of vision, you could see through it. It was kind of like looking through burlap. But you do try to scooch your head or something, go back down and out somewhere. But those are like, I don't see the little curtain anymore. I still see like a little filament black things that will come from time to time. And I just had an eye doctor appointment not that long ago. The eye looks good. And my vision was a small amount better in my left eye. So he came back on my prescription a little bit in the left eye. So that was good. Let's see. So I still have tinnitus in my left ear, and it's it's not a high pitched sound. It's kind of a thrumming kind of sound. And so I'm hoping that will go away. Maybe, you've had these things a long time, and I had vertigo a couple years ago, scared me so much. I called the ambulance on myself and get to the hospital, and they're just, yeah, your blood pressure is a little high and you've got vertigo. Here, go take these meds, and which are like anti-nauseous meds. So I ended up Googling vertigo and came up with the Epley maneuver. Have you heard of that? So if anybody has vertigo out there, just do the Epley maneuver. It took 2 days because the first day I couldn't tell which side it was on and I picked the wrong side. It has you get in a certain position on the floor with your head a certain way, and you're trying to shake the crystals in your ear, which is what caused it. But it's the scariest thing when you don't know what it is, because it felt like I was flying off the bed. And then when you could get that into a little bit of control, then you're having to hold on to the wall and the stairwell, and blood pressure was really high at that time. And, calling my sister, I think I'm dying. She said, just go to the ER. And then they were very nice, but they just don't have anything for you. So let's see. Yeah. And then, so I have a husband who is like a great sport about everything. And as soon as I said, I think we need to try this, and he said, okay. So we eat exactly the same, except he is not fully carnivore. He still uses a little bit of mushrooms, and like that's his favorite thing. So mushrooms and maybe a little onion powder. But other than that, we eat the same way. And he always had, we're back to the hands here. He always had a issue where he had Raynaud's. His fingers would turn white when it would get cold. And that even happened in Hawaii because he had come out, laid down for a while, and then went back in the water. And so he'd been from very warm into the cooler water, and his fingers just turned white. And so I would see him doing this a lot just to get the blood flow back into his fingers. And the place that we moved to has a lot of snow. And this whole winter, his fingers never turned white, not once. He washed the car when it was like 37 degrees. And that is pretty remarkable. So they never turned white. They get cold. He'll come in the house. He goes, yeah, my hands are cold. I look at them. They're pink. So, you know, the power of the hands, carnivore and hands. Yeah, so that's kind of, so probably my other thing is I've got low thyroid. I don't expect that I'll probably be able to get off of the Armor thyroid. Maybe, I don't know. I don't go to doctors. I don't like them, and I don't trust them. And yeah, but I found a nurse practitioner here because I have to go because no one will refill your prescription if you don't go. And this was back in November. I told him I thought I was going to probably be going more on a meat-based diet. And he just sort of said, meat-based? And I said, yeah. But I know a lot of people out there, they want all their labs and they want to see their labs improve. I don't want to know my labs. So I got the thyroid, that's it. He's like, oh, we could do a whole panel. I said, no, we're not. And part of that is because at the last clinic, they were horrible. It was during, so the eye surgery was during the COVID. They were nasty to me, not the surgeons. The eye surgery place were fine. I'm talking my primary care. They wouldn't do the authorization. I spent like 3 months trying to get them to get my insurance to pay. Just all you have to do is say you referred me to an eye doctor, an eye specialist. They wouldn't do that. And then they wrote after a thyroid thing to put my dose to 30 or go to 30. And I said, I'm taking 52.5 milligrams right now. I think the doctor made a mistake. Like could you clarify that with her? So this took like 2 weeks of me trying to call and leave a message. No one ever answers. And then finally I go there and I said, I need to clarify, what am I supposed to be taking? And she said, it says go to 30. I said, right, that's what you guys have told me like 2 times, but could you go talk to the doctor and go ask her, can I talk to the doctor? No, you have to have an appointment to talk to the doctor. So we went round and round and round on this. And yeah, I was supposed to be on 60. So 2 30 milligram tablets, coming up from 52.5, which was a weird thing. I was having to get the certain ones in half to get to that dose. And then, you go to the doctor and they say, well, your blood pressure is elevated. I said, well, that's because you guys elevated. I'm fine. And I have a blood pressure here. It's a little higher than I wanted. It's kind of hanging out around 120/82. But that's more in the morning. By mid-afternoon, it's usually lower. So I've never been on blood pressure meds, never taken a statin. And so I might be going to my grave with this thyroid med. And we'll see.
Well, congratulations on all the improvements you've seen so far. And that's just since January 5.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So
it's impressive.
Yeah. And then I didn't touch on weight loss. I'm not on this for weight loss. I was on this to try to be able to be functional. And I was huge. Like I've never been the fat person, but the weight over years just kind of snuck up. And then I think the COVID thing, fine. And then just sloppy eating habits, right? And I was never a sugar person. I don't know how we got the peanut M&Ms in there, but I was more like potato chips. So I liked my carbs, but I liked them kind of salty and crispy. But so when I saw how big I was, like you don't think it that much until you start thinking, wow, this is not good. The family wedding, from those pictures from September, yay. So I already figured out I needed to do something before I started the whole carnivore thing. And then since we'd moved to a different state, I had to get a new driver's license. So my driver's license picture, it's pretty big too, but I had already dropped about 13 pounds by then. And I lied on it. So I told them I was 5 pounds less than I was, just because, it's close enough. The cop's not going to weigh me. So if we go from, say, November, because I was doing the lower carb, let's see, that would be about 18 pounds to right now. But if we go all the way back to the earliest in September, it's a disgusting 31 pounds. So yeah, you can lose weight just putting your mind to it with the lower carb, because I think the carbs are what's putting everybody into inflammation, and I think everybody's on so many of them, even when you start looking into the low carb thing, you're like, oh gosh, cheese has some and this has some. And yeah, so the other thing is, maybe I might need to look at I was taking some supplements, and then you start turning them around and you read what's in them. It's like some cellulose this, and like, I just wanted a little bit of B vitamins because I thought it couldn't hurt. So I don't know. And then the Armor Thyroid has corn. It's one of its fillers has corn. And if you go to a different brand, it has lactose as its filler. So I've got to decide what's worse. Is one of those things kind of causing any problems? And don't have the answer to that one yet, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it's great to hear how things have improved. When thinking about day to day, how are you eating day to day? And is it is it the same time as your husband? Are you both able to work in together, or are you eating separately?
So we always eat our evening meal together. We eat when we get hungry, and each of us gets hungry at a little bit of a different time. I'm eating twice a day. So usually 11 or 12 is the first meal. And I envy all those people that said they can eat eggs right then, because my mind still misses eggs so bad. But for me, it's probably more like leftover ground beef with a few slices of bacon thrown in it. We got a quarter cow about a month ago, and so we've got a lot of beef. And then for dinner, we'll usually eat early, like 5. So we have kind of a longer window of intermittent fasting. We're not intentionally trying to do it that way. It's just that's about when we get hungry. And I think eating early is better as opposed to getting too close to bedtime. Yeah. And so when you get kind of bored of one thing, or you just look at one thing sitting on your plate, it's like, there's just that flavor. We'll put something else on there. So it might be like a couple chicken legs and a piece of steak. Or my husband can eat shrimp. That's another food allergy I can't eat. So I can do crab legs. So those are good, but they're really expensive. Or we do scallops. So I had gone to a recipe where it was bacon wrapped scallops. Well, don't do that, folks. It's a pain. You have to pre-cook the bacon a little bit, so it's a little bit pliable, but it will get done. And then you have to do the toothpicks, which they always sort of slide off. And then just cook some bacon, cook some scallops, and put them both on your plate, and then you can have both flavors at the same time. We eat salmon. We do eat chicken. I'm gonna say it's probably not as good as I used to like chicken. It's we used to eat chicken a lot, probably way more than beef, and it's fine. It's just, I like the drippings when you make it yourself. Then you get some flavor, like some gravy from the drippings. I I still like pork, and we'll brine the pork chops in salt water for at least an hour beforehand, and so it stays moist. And I always get the ones with the fat on the edge. Yeah, let me think. No, I think we pretty much eat any animal product, with the exception of the ones that I can't kind of tolerate.
Sure. And what's the reaction been from friends or extended family to you and your husband doing this crazy meat diet?
Yeah, so we aren't in the bell curve of pretty much anything in life. We're like outliers, the bell curve. We're way over at the edge. So weird, I think they're used to. So yeah, I have 3 kids. They're all adults. They're pretty supportive. They'll do a little bit of the eye roll thing. When we were back visiting one of them, I asked for them to keep the fat on the steak because he trims it all off, and he did the eye roll and did it, but he did it. The others they're like, whatever you want to do, whatever makes you feel better. I don't think any of them are considering doing it for themselves. They, it's just too weird, and they all have kids, so it's just too weird and too hard. And yeah, but I hope that they'll see that it works. And one of the things that I see, a lot of the people that you talk to are our age. Like, I'm way older than you, but they've had to accumulate this problem and this problem and this problem and this problem and this problem. It would sure be nice if we could catch some of those people when they were 25 or 30, or even younger. So I don't know if you noticed what my name was as far as when I leave comments on your channel, but my husband and I are Carnivore meat eaters. And we came up with the Carnivan because we want to just take probably fairly local road trips, but just trying to talk to people, or even just parking in a Costco parking lot, to just tell them this can work. And all of the stories that you've been telling about these people that they've suffered for a long time. They haven't gotten answers for a long time. And we have these huge corporations making money off of us. We are their assets, whether it's big food, big pharma. They have no vested interest in getting us that much better. And then I think, coming as a nurse, I see that the medical system has started deteriorating from healers, from people wanting to get you better, to they're just technicians. They're just going to sit across the room on their computer, look at your numbers, and that tells them what they do. And in fact, I had a family member who had bad stomach pains, but was also having either allergies, symptoms, or something going on with their throat. And this person went to the doctor with those as their complaints, and the doctor sat across the room with a mask on, with the computer, and just did stuff, and then sent her for ultrasound or some MRI or something. That doctor never examined her. You didn't push on the belly or look down your throat. No. Okay. So that's how we diagnose now. Just send them on to the next place. And it's pretty sad. And I think everybody's having to do it on themselves, themselves. I know our journey has been try this, no, that didn't work. Try that, no, that didn't work. And to have to find out that maybe I was low on magnesium because I had the irritable bowel because I was not tolerating gluten, and it was allowing my intestines to either not absorb the nutrients they needed, and then for the proteins to get into my bloodstream that then triggered autoimmune. To have to find that out from talking to a colleague in the hallway, that hey, you need magnesium. That was kind of sad. And to have a gastroenterologist never tell you to eat something different or better, or even ask what you were eating. So yeah, so we're gonna do it as much as we can. We have family things that we need to deal with, so it's not like we can pick up and go far road trips. I don't know that we can do big things, but we're trying to get the message out.
I think it's great, you know, it's because, you know, this kind of word of mouth way of delivering a message, I think, is way more effective than having a website or something like that and hoping that people are going to be interested.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are meeting, if you do meet someone and you want to talk about it, how would you introduce Carnivore to them?
I would honestly say you've got to have the why that's big enough. And like I said, I was not terribly open to listening to one more thing because it just felt like, oh, another thing, another thing I've got to deal with. I've got to concentrate on. The book. I want to read a fiction novel about something, not like this. And since then though, like my book budget had to go up because as you start finding these other docs, I went to the Georgia Eads book and Christopher Palmer's book, and then Gary Taub's Rethinking Diabetes. So my hands were a big why. I mean, that sounds really silly, but you use your hands for everything, and you would find yourself just avoiding doing certain things. Like, do I really need socks? Well, I could wear sandals, and then when I thought it could get worse, right? Both hands could get to, my grandma had bad arthritis, and, she was barely able to hold the coffee pot to pour it. So if they have a why, and I think looking at the state of, everybody's health, not just Americans, but looking at the state of their health, their why is in there somewhere. They just it has to be strong enough for them to overcome I want to keep eating this XYZ food. So I think it would probably be to talk to them about things that I've seen with your guests. These are some incredible people, and I felt so bad coming on to do this because I thought, I haven't fixed it yet, and I haven't fixed everything yet, and it isn't as major as that lady that had the dystonia and then walked, or people that are able to get off diabetic meds, and that could be in my future. I wasn't checking labs. I could have already been one, right?
Yeah. And so just to cut in, like, I know what you're trying to say, but I think one thing you've already alluded to, which is important to remember, is it is a big thing because, as you say, you use your hands for everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the utilities in your house, no one thinks about water coming out the tap until the water's not coming out the tap anymore. And suddenly it's like, oh, that stuff's really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's the same with your hands or your feet. You don't think about them until it's like, yeah, like, as you say, do I really need to put on socks?
Yeah. So I guess I would just find out what they're willing to do, and then just say, you can do it in small increments. Like it took us a while to step down from the fall to January. And when I was watching the low carb people, it's like, okay, I could do low carb. We were cooking a little cabbage and butter, and we were still eating things like broccoli and cucumbers, and but yes, we were losing. My husband didn't really need to lose weight, but I was losing weight. It just, the symptoms weren't getting under control. And so I think with Carnivore, I was going to do it the 30 days. And I had found all of the same doctors everybody had found. And I know Dr. Berry was saying do it for 90. I think that was a January 1 challenge. And I'm like, I'll do it for 30. And then 30 came and went, and I was better. And then 60 came and went. And then people kept asking me, like, when are you going to start adding back? Because I'd tell them it was an elimination diet, you know. And I said, well, I'm just eliminating these things to try to get a grasp. And I said, I don't see any reason to add anything back yet. And people also don't realize that you're hungry and your food always tastes good. And so the other things that we do for pleasure is not food. We're really happy to eat, like, oh, good, dinner's here and yay. And I can remember liking these other foods. So I have the memory of, oh, I love mashed potatoes. Oh, I love scalloped potatoes. And it's like talking about a nice vacation. It's like, oh, remember when we went to, you know, Hawaii? Remember the sand was nice. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I'd like to go to Hawaii again, but I don't think I'm going to add back the food. And oh, this is the other crazy thing. We bought this house to have a homestead. It's on an acre of land. All last fall, we were trying to put cardboard down and then soil down to rehab this really overgrown section of a garden that had formerly been there, thinking we were going to grow all this food. And now I'm like, well, what are we going to do with that? So we're still planning on growing. The chicken coop has to be redone. And I'd probably do that just so my husband can have eggs. The garden I'm still going to plant out because I know that the food system is threatened by everybody and everything that's doing things. So it's like the freezer's plan A, the garden's plan B, and we have a lot of fruit trees too. So I've got applesauce and apple juice in the freezer, applesauce that I canned. I had 200 pounds of apples last year, and we were only catching the production at the end of its season. So I probably will be donating some to food banks, possibly doing like a little roadside stand and, you know, make a couple $100. I don't know, maybe we'll plant pumpkins. But we're going to do something. I like being outside and I like being active doing that. And, but yeah, we didn't think this out well when we were deciding to move about having to totally change our diet. But, oh, I could tell you what, I think it's like plan C or D. Across the street from us is a potato farm. That's all it is. It's just all, you know, monocrop potatoes and all winter long, not a blade of grass, not a weed, nothing there. And now it's planted out and something's green. But that just tells you what's on that and what's in those potatoes. So that might be like plan F or G if the whole food system, we could sneak under cover of night and get a potato or two. And then plan D, next door is cows and goats, baby goats. So they're adorable. We can see them outside our window all the time. It's not our property, but we could maybe make friends with them. And you'd said, what are friends saying about this? Well, we don't really have any friends. We haven't met anybody here. Everybody here is friendly. But yeah, we're kind of just two people doing our own thing. And, but yeah, it gives me encouragement to see that right next door, somebody's raising cattle.
Nice. So, Rosanna, is there a way that people can reach out to you? Do you have a website or social media?
So no website, but the Carnivan, I started a Facebook. It's not, I haven't added anything to it because we haven't really done anything and haven't convinced anybody to do anything. But it is on Facebook, Carnivan Meat Eaters.
Awesome. I'll link to that in the description under this video. And Rosanna, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate your time.
Well, it was my pleasure. So I told my sister I thought I was going to be kind of nervous. And I said, but I feel like I know you. I've seen you so many times. You're not that scary. And so I kind of felt like you were a friend. So I appreciate it.